a good old-fashioned road trip but don't know where to go? In today's video, I am going over the top 10 US road trip destinations that you need to add to your bucket list. These 10 best USA road trips are going to be filled with the best hikes, landscapes, overlooks, and mountain ranges of the entire country. So let's dive right into it. If you're new here, hey guys, I'm Indigo from the Indigo Sahara travel blog, where we help hundreds of thousands of travelers just like you make your dream trips a reality through budget travel tips and destination guides. So be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any future destination guides like this one. Number 1 is Highway 89. Route US 89 is hands down one of the best and most underrated road tripping highways in the entire country. This western US highway runs all the way from central Montana down to southern Utah. From massive mountain ranges to jaw-dropping desert landscapes, there is an adventure for every type of traveler on this route. In addition, there's a large variety of national parks that border this highway, such as Yellowstone, Grand Teton, Zion, Bryce Canyon, and Grand Canyon National Park, making it one of the most epic road trip routes in the United States. Some of the best Highway 89 road trip stops are Yellowstone, Grand Teton, Pink Lake, also known as the Great Salt Lake in Utah, Capitol Reef, Bryce Canyon, Zion, Kanab, which is where the Moki Sand Caves and the Belly of the Dragon are, Horseshoe Bend, Lake Powell, White Pocket, Antelope Canyon, Grand Canyon National Park, of course, and Sedona, Arizona. Now, obviously, there is a ton to do on this highway, so it might be in your best interest to split up Highway 89 into several different week-long road trips, because that way you'll get to see all of the US 89's best stops. My favorite in particular is probably White Pocket. I loved White Pocket. Also, Pink Lake, really cool. Obviously, you don't get to see Pink Lakes very often, so that one is a must-see as well. Highway 89 is definitely my personal favorite of this entire road trip list, which is why I had to mention it first, so definitely put it on your bucket list if it's not already, or if you haven't already been. Number 2, an Arizona road trip. Now, this best USA road trips guide would not be complete without focusing in on the Arizona and Utah parts of Highway 89, so that is what we're gonna do now. An Arizona road trip offers a classic American Southwest experience full of desert hikes, giant canyons, and otherworldly sights. The best stops on an Arizona road trip include Scottsdale, Subway Cave in Sedona, Devil's Bridge in Sedona, Birthing Cave and Soldiers Pass, both of which are in Sedona, White Pocket, Lake Powell, Lower Antelope Canyon and Upper Antelope Canyon, the Glen Canyon Dam, all of which are in Page, Arizona, and of course, Grand Canyon National Park. You will likely need at least 1 week for your entire Arizona road trip if you want to see as much as possible. Last year, my husband, our best friend, and I spent a week in Arizona, and we saw all of these places, and it was an incredible road trip. I definitely will be back to Arizona in the future. I have to say that Grand Canyon National Park and the Flagstaff area probably had the best overlooks if you're not into hiking and you'd rather just park and look at the view. Sedona had the best hikes, and Page, Arizona had some of the most otherworldly places in the state, like Antelope Canyon and White Pocket. Number 3 is a Utah Mighty 5 road trip. Likewise, a Utah Mighty 5 road trip has to be at the top of every US traveler's bucket list. Whether you're an avid backpacker or a luxury vacationer, you will be amazed by the hikes, both long and short, parking lot overlooks, and otherworldly views of Utah. The Utah Mighty 5 refers to the 5 epic national parks that reside in Utah, namely Arches National Park, Canyonlands National Park, Capitol Reef, Zion, and Bryce Canyon National Parks. The best stops on a Utah Mighty 5 road trip are, of course, the national parks, Kanab, Rainbow Mountains, also known as Bentonite Hills, Pink Lake, also known as the Great Salt Lake, the Bonneville Salt Flats, and Corona and Bowtie Arches in Moab. Of course, the 5 national parks are must-sees while you're in Utah, but I definitely recommend going to some of these other stops, such as Pink Lake, such as Bonneville Salt Flats, or the Bentonite Hills, because they are just incredible. You will not see places like these in any other part of the country, and in some cases in any other part of the world. So I definitely recommend broadening your Utah road trip to even more than just the Mighty 5 if you have time. I do have a 7-day Utah road trip itinerary on my blog that I'll of course link below. That includes all of the national parks as well as some of these other stops that I would not go to Utah without visiting. Number 4 is the Road to Hana in Maui, Hawaii. On the contrary, a road trip through the tropical Road to Hana and the Hana Highway located in Maui will bring you on a beautiful coastal journey through black sand beaches, red sand beaches, volcanic craters, bamboo forests, and impressive jungle waterfalls. The best stops on the Road to Hana include the Ho'okipa Lookout and Ho'okipa Beach, the rainbow eucalyptus trees, Nahiku Landing, Haleakala National Park, PPY Trail, Waimoku Falls, the pools of Ohio, which are also called the Seven Sacred Pools, Makapipi Falls, Twin Falls, Kaihalulu Beach, which is the red sand beach, Wainapanapa State Park, which is where the iconic black sand beach is, Paihi Falls, Palapala no Omau Congregational Church, which is where Charles Lindbergh's grave is, and St. Joseph Church. Clearly, there are a ton of great stops on the Road to Hana, which is why I really recommend that you download the Shaka Guide audio tour. Shaka Guide is an app basically where you can download these road trip audio tour guides that link up with the GPS system on your phone. So as you're driving the Road to Hana, the Shaka Guide audio tour will know where you are based on your car's GPS location and give you specific audio tour guides based on your location. So for example, if you are coming up to the PPY Trail on the Road to Hana, then Shaka Guide will know where you are, know that you're coming up on that trail, and give you a whole spiel about that hike, about where you're going, about what you'll see. It's just a really great, seamless way to experience the Road to Hana and other road trips. Shaka Guide does offer other national park guides too, and other guides on different Hawaiian islands. We used it in Kauai too, but when we used it in Maui the first time, it was just a great way to experience the Road to Hana, to learn more while we're driving, and without having to do a whole lot of research. You only need 1 or 2 days to see the best stops on the Road to Hana, which is why it makes a great road trip that you can implement right into your Maui Hawaiian vacation if you like the beach scene as well. Number 5 is a Washington State National Parks road trip. For the mountain lovers out there, a Washington State National Parks road trip is an epic way to see some of the country's most iconic mountains, a rainforest, and the Pacific coast. The best Washington State National Park road trips covers all 3 of the state's national parks, which are Olympic National Park, Mount Rainier National Park, and North Cascades National Park. Some of the best Washington road trip stops are the Hoh Rainforest in Olympic, the Hall of Mosses in Olympic, Rialto Beach and Hurricane Ridge, which are also in Olympic National Park. And then in Mount Rainier, we have Reflections Lake, Mount Fremont Fire Outlook, and Myrtle Falls. And in North Cascades National Park, we have Diablo Lake, which is my favorite, and of course the Maple Pass Loop Trail. Don't be fooled though, you will need at least a whole week to fully experience these 3 national parks. My husband and I did 3 parks in 3 days. I have a whole video going over that you can watch here, but as you'll see in the video, 3 parks in 3 days was not enough time. We did as much as we could, but we will definitely have to go back to Washington to fully experience all these national parks. There's just so much to do there and much to see that I definitely recommend at least a whole week if you want to do all 3 of the Washington National Parks, which are all 3 worthwhile. It's also important to note that in Washington and in other states too, like Utah and Arizona, the national parks are huge and spread out from each other for the most part, which means that your drive times between national parks and even between trailheads within a single national park could take hours. So even if you see that, for example, Olympic National Park is 2.5 hours away from Mount Rainier, for example. Well, that may be the case, but that's from park entrance to park entrance. It might be another hour or 2 hours or more to get to the specific trailhead that you want to go to. So be prepared to drive a lot and know that you'll need at least a week to make up for that drive time. Number 6 is the Columbia River Gorge. Slightly south, you could easily tack on a road trip through the Columbia River Gorge to your Washington National Park road trip, which is exactly what we did. You only need 1 to 2 days in Columbia River Gorge area, yet you will witness some of the most impressive waterfalls in the continental US here along the Columbia River Highway. The must-see stops on the Columbia River Gorge are Multnomah Falls, Lateral Falls, Bridalveil Falls, Joaquina Falls, and where we stayed, Skamania Lodge. It's a beautiful resort if you want to stay overnight in the Columbia River Gorge area. It is a fabulous lodge resort that is luxurious and mountainy cabin vibes all in one. So if you love adventure, but you also love luxury, that's a great place for you to stay. I have a whole video going over our Columbia River Gorge road trip as well as our stay in Skamania Lodge that you can watch here. I was really shocked with how much we loved the Columbia River Gorge area, particularly because it felt like we were back in Iceland or Ireland with the basalt columns and massive waterfalls and so much greenery. It just felt like we were transported to another country, and it is just a total hidden gem in the Pacific Northwest. Number 7 is a road trip through Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. Another US road trip destination that pleasantly surprised me was a road trip through Grand Teton and Yellowstone. As previously mentioned, both of these US national parks are situated along Highway 89, making them both easily accessible in one trip. Here you'll see jagged mountains, glacier lakes, authentic cowboy lifestyle, Mormon settler ruins, rainbow-colored geysers, Old Faithful geyser, and more. The best stops on a Grand Teton and Yellowstone road trip are Delta Lake, Mormon Row, Jenny Lake, Jackson Hole, Grand Prismatic Springs, West Thumb Geyser Basin, Mammoth Hot Springs, Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, and of course iconic Old Faithful. To see both of Grand Canyon and Yellowstone National Parks in their entirety, I definitely recommend at least 2 days in each park. We managed to do this road trip in a long weekend with 2 days in the parks, 1 day for each park, and similar to our Washington road trip, it was fantastic. So worth it, but we definitely did not get to experience the entirety of each national park, which is why I would recommend 2 days per park. Grand Teton's Delta Lake was definitely my favorite stop on this whole road trip. If you like hiking, this is a must-do hike on this road trip. This hike is not for the faint of heart, but it is worth every single switchback and boulder scramble through grizzly country, believe me, because it will lead you to a beautiful turquoise glacier lake. I like to call it the Lake Louise of the US. It is just beautiful and so peaceful, and I would definitely love to do this hike again, even though we were very tired after. If you want to do it in a long weekend, I do have a Grand Teton Yellowstone quick trip itinerary on my blog that I will link for you as well. Number 8 is the Needles Highway. Next, in South Dakota, you'll find the famous Needles Highway. Between the wildlife, unique mountain rock formations, and historic sites like Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse, there is something in store for the whole family on this US road trip destination. Nearby, you also have the opportunity to visit Badlands National Park as well if you wish. The best Needles Highway road trip stops are Custer State Park, Mount Rushmore of course, Crazy Horse Memorial, Badlands National Park, and where we stayed, which is Buffalo Ridge Camp Resort. If you want to glamp, this is your opportunity. We glamped in a canvas tent in the Buffalo Ridge Camp Resort, and it was so cool, so fun. It was very comfortable too. We went in April or May, I believe, and the weather was perfect, and it was just a really cool way to experience camping and nature without sacrificing good old luxury. You can see the majority of the Needles Highway's best stops in 1 to 2 days, but I recommend adding an extra day if you hope to visit Badlands National Park as well. Number 9 is a road trip through Wisconsin's Highway 42 through Door County and Washington Island. Now, I may be biased, but as a Wisconsin local, I couldn't finish this list of top 10 US road trip destinations without adding Wisconsin's Highway 42. This road trip is one of America's best kept secrets and provides quintessential East Coast vibes, even though it's in the Midwest. Here you'll get to see countless adorable seaside towns, which are technically lakeside, but Lake Michigan does feel like an ocean. Cute souvenir shops, beautiful bluffs, Scandinavian architecture, and one of the clearest beaches in the United States. This is not my biased opinion. Travel and Leisure actually posted an article stating that this beach, Schoolhouse Beach, is the clearest beach in the United States, so don't just take it from me, take it from Travel and Leisure. So the best stops in Door County and Washington Island are Cave Point County Park, Peninsula State Park, the Door County Wineries, Highway 42's Windy Road for a very good photo op, Downtown Fish Creek for souvenir shops, Sister Bay, Fragrant Isle Lavender Farm, Schoolhouse Beach, which I mentioned earlier, Washington Island Stop Kirk, the Whitefish Dunes State Park, Bailey's Harbor, Ellison Bay, Cana Island Lighthouse, Rock Island State Park, and Ephraim. Like I alluded to, we love Door County. We go at least once a year, being Wisconsin people, and that is why I had to add it to this list. You can easily do all of Door County in a day trip if you need to. It is so fun to stay on the lake there if you have more time to spend there though. And also you might want to add on an extra day if you want to go to Washington Island as well, because you do have to take the ferry from the tip of the Door County Peninsula to Washington Island. Definitely worth it, especially in July and August when those lavender farms are in full bloom, and to see the clearest water in the United States at Schoolhouse Beach. I also have a blog post with the best things to do in Washington Island all year round, as well as all the information that you need in terms of taking the ferry and getting there and all that good stuff, so I will link that as well. Oh, and if you're hungry, you can get some really good Scandinavian food at Al Johnson's, which is known for the goats that live on the roof of the restaurant. Very cool Scandinavian vibes. Otherwise, Wild Tomato Pizza. Oh, chef's kiss is some of the best pizza that I've ever had. Love Wild Tomato. The green and gold tribute to the Packers pizza is my favorite. It has whole cheese curds melted on the pizza. Very good. And lastly, number 10 of the top 10 road trip destinations in the US is a California National Parks road trip. California is home to a whopping 9 US national parks. That includes Redwood, Lassen Volcanic, Yosemite, Kings Canyon, Pinnacles, Death Valley, Sequoia, Channel Islands, and Joshua Tree National Park. So there's no wondering why a California National Parks road trip had to make this list. Or if you're not too keen on a national park slash hiking slash adventure outdoorsy road trip, then Highway 1 is another great coastal vibe alternative to a California National Parks road trip. Highway 1 in California is another very iconic road trip in the US as well. If you're hoping to visit all of the California national parks in one trip, you'll definitely want at least 2 weeks, because you want to spend 1 to 2 days minimum in each national park. So that's why I recommend at least 2 weeks. Otherwise, of course, you could split it into separate week-long trips, just like the Highway 89 road trip. And that is it. That is the top 10 US road trip destinations that you need to add to your bucket list, because they are just incredible. I love all of these road trip spots. Some of them are my favorite places that I've ever been in the world, which is saying a lot. So I definitely think that you need to visit these places, and I hope this video inspired you to make that road trip happen and help narrow down all of the places that you could go in the US. If you liked this video, definitely let me know by giving me a thumbs up, and comment which road trip you're most interested in. I would love to know that answer. And other than that, I will see you in next week's video. So for now, ciao.